Every year here at Ag PhD, we get lots of calls from farmers saying, well, what should I use for a desiccant on my farm and when should I spray it? Well, the whole thing that I like to start with is naturally I want to have that crop dry down all by itself because then I invest less money in the crop. And the other reason why is I just want every last seed to finish. Soybeans are a great example. So if I've got a couple of green spots left out in my field, I get calls all the time and guys say, yep, I want to, just kill that off and finish it up so I can go harvest. Well, what's more important, harvesting today or harvesting a week from now and making more money? I'd rather wait just a little bit and have more money. When you still have green in your plants, that means that there's something still alive. There's probably something still feeding that seed. We want to keep feeding that seed as long as we possibly can.
Well, the other thing too, Brian, is a lot of these crops we're thinking about harvesting for seed, whether it's wheat or soybeans or whatever crop it is. If you want to have the viability of that seed be good for next year, I think putting a desiccant out there, you are taking a risk. If you stop that plant before it's completely finished, there's a chance that you could hurt germination, and in many cases you do.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's not just we think there's a chance. There absolutely is going to be a reduction in germination when you desiccate that crop as opposed to when you don't. So we don't want to see desiccants put on seed fields at all. Now, if it's other cases, yes, you can do it. But again, there's some risk there. We just want to make sure that, it's very late in the season. You're using this only just to kind of finish things up at the very end, not to take totally green stuff and burn that all the way down.
Well, it's kind of interesting too, as you look at all the available products that you've got, and depending on which crop you're in, there are things you can use like Roundup, Gramoxone, AIM, Valor. There's just
Sharpen.
Sharpen. There's a number of products out there to choose from, and their labels really vary widely depending on which crop you're talking about.
Well, that's the whole thing. Each one of these has a little different label, and each one of them differs on each different crop. So some of them are 7-day pre-harvest interval, others are 14-day. Certain ones can be used in this crop, can't be used in another crop. So it is a little bit complicated. Just make sure you're looking at the label or working with a good agronomist. And also let me just say that things could potentially vary by state, and they can vary from year to year. So just because you've always done something one way doesn't mean that it's labeled anymore in your state on your particular crop.
The other thing you have to watch as you switch from one product to the next is which adjuvants you want to put with them. For example, with Sharpen, they really like methylated seed oil with that, where with Roundup, you may not put any additive with it at all. It just depends on which product you're out there with and how quickly you want to get a burn. Using some oil or some type of surfactant will help get that product through the leaf tissue that much faster and typically speed up your desiccation. So do pay attention to the label and choose the right adjuvants as well. Let's make one last comment about Roundup. Now, for years, that's probably been the most popular product at this time of year. It's getting used in desiccation or pre-harvest burn down. Unfortunately, we're starting to get a lot of Roundup-resistant weeds in areas where we haven't had them in the past. So when you're looking at using Roundup again this fall, just keep in mind which weeds you have out in the field. Perhaps you have some kochia that's out there, and maybe it's Roundup resistant. Just don't count on a lot of weed control out of that. You can still get your crop ready to go for harvest, but it may not be the weed control that it once was.
And also keep in mind, again, the pre-harvest interval and also the maximum use rate. In most cases, it's only 22 ounces of name brand Roundup you can use as a desiccant, and we find many people spraying 44 ounces to control weeds anymore. So just make sure you're not exceeding the maximum label rate.
Well, there's a lot of things to think about in pre-harvest burn down and desiccation, and one of those things might be our weed of the week. We'll show you how to get this weed under control coming up next.